Hey, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. I thought I'd have a chat to you about a newspaper article I read today, actually, and it was talking about a builder in the building industry, obviously. And I just thought I'd have a bit of a chat to you about what the worst thing that can possibly happen to a builder is, basically. And in this situation, it was bad publicity. Someone obviously written an article about how they'd made losses over the last couple of years, and then at the moment they're being taken to court for not paying some of their suppliers. And it was also talking about, hey Gulshan, thanks for joining. And they were just talking about how some of their customers are having delays on their builds, and so unhappy customers, not really sure what's going on. So the reason I thought I'd have a chat to you about this is because basically this is the worst thing in the world for a builder. So I think you've heard from previous episodes of talking about builders and how difficult an industry it is to be in. Particularly, one of the reasons why it's so difficult is for cash flow, essentially. Cash flow meaning, you're going to need to be able to pay for things up front before the money comes back, essentially. So legally, you're not allowed to, as a builder, you're not allowed to charge people for work that hasn't been completed yet. So essentially, imagine building a house. Let's say the house is worth $200,000. You're going to be building put down the slab of the house. You charge a fee for that. So you're going to put it down first before you actually can charge people for it. So let's say, that's worth $40,000. So you've got to fork out the money up front to put down the slab of the house before then you can charge them the $40,000. And then likewise, then you put up the frame and you put up the brickwork and you charge them another, $50,000 or whatever it happens to be. And so over time, you're always paying up front first, and then you get paid second. So the issue with that, and why that's a problem, you imagine that's okay if you're building one house, you need to put down 40 grand up front. Generally, you should get paid within 7 days. Sometimes what happens is there can be delays in payments for a whole pile of reasons. Just maybe obviously a lot of the people that are building haven't done it before. They're not really sure how banks work and how they get paid, and the bank might ask extra questions. They're not sure about things. And so backwards and forwards. So you can imagine from the builder's perspective, they've done the work, they've laid the slab down, they're sitting there waiting to get paid, and then they haven't been paid. And there's not really, there's no reason to suspect they won't get paid. The issue is, for the builder, they've forked out $40,000 up front, and they're sitting there waiting to get paid. So the way they've had to fork out that $40,000, they've had to borrow money from the bank, basically. So it's costing them money on top of that. So essentially, they're lending that owner, their client, some money. That $40,000 is covering the cost until they get paid back, essentially. So they're getting charged interest on that amount of money. So the reason why that's important, if you can imagine that we fork out, $40,000, that's one house. Imagine we're building 10 houses, that's $400,000. Imagine we're building 100 houses, that's $4 million. So you can see how the numbers can get really large really quickly. And you might say, hey, well, they're getting paid in 7 days anyway. It doesn't take very much for it to turn around slightly, and before you know it, you're meant to get paid in 7 days, it ends up being 14 days or 30 days. And obviously you get money back, and obviously you earn a profit on top of that. But it can be quite quickly that numbers can turn the opposite way, and it can purely be because of holding costs, or it might be a situation where the bank doesn't want to extend the situation, they'll lend you any more money. So you've taken on this job, and you can't actually lay the slab down until you get paid for another job, because you need to fund it yourself, essentially. And so in that situation, you can understand then why a builder might have to delay some of their builds, because if someone hasn't paid them quick enough, they can't actually lay down the next slab. And the reason why that's an issue is because their tradies are sitting around waiting to get paid too. So the builder is waiting to get paid from the client, and then the tradies are also waiting to get paid by the builder. So what creates this cycle that, firstly, they've got to start delaying some of their clients because they haven't got the money in from a previous client, and likewise they start to delay some of their tradies. And what happens then is these delays cause a huge amount of problems, not just with cash flow, but also their reputation. And so tradies start to get annoyed they're not getting paid up front. And particularly if the builder's not big enough, the tradies will just go somewhere else. Hey, you haven't paid me, I'm going to go somewhere else. If the builder's big enough, they're building enough houses, then the tradie might have to wear the cost someone himself, really, and sit around and wait to get paid, essentially. But remember, they're not going to like that, and they're only getting put up for it for so long. So the situation could be that if it continues for too long, the tradies might get really annoyed, and they might not want to do any more work for that builder anymore, and they might end up having to go to second or third tier tradies that are going to do their work, which You know, they might be at the not at the high standard that their first, you know, their top line tradies might be, which means the issue is when they don't have their best tradies working on jobs, that creates more issues as far as, you know, they're not doing their job to the high standards, or they're, you know, missing things, and that creates maintenance issues, and if they take longer because they're not as skilled as the previous guys, all these things just start to compound, and it makes the situation so much far worse. And also, it's not, like I said, it's not just about the money and the time factor, it's also about the reputation. So reputation is everything as far as building goes, because you're starting to build a reputation within the industry, particularly in a place like Adelaide. It's a very small market, so everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows, you know, what's going on. So as far as, you know, within the industry, all the tradies know if they're not getting paid on time, and they know what the situation might be. And obviously there's going to be less loyalty if they're not getting paid, and if they got delays and they're causing hassles to themselves, essentially. Because remember, the tradies have got staff working for them that they got to pay bills for. So it just works on all the way down the line. It just creates this compounding problem. It just makes it worse and worse for everyone, not just that builder, but everyone within the industry, basically. So I think about this, you know, they have good times and bad times for all builders, essentially. So there's most builders can trade out of this situation, so they just continue, obviously, take on more jobs, and then that makes more profits, and they come and pay back their debts, and eventually they get back on top of things, their cash flow gets better, they remember for next time, just put more money aside, hopefully not take on too much work. Because the crazy thing about being a builder, if you actually take on more work, it can actually be a worse problem. You imagine if you're short of cash, and you need some cash. The logical thing is, what I need to do is sign up a lot more people. If I sign up a lot more people, then I'm going to have more money to be able to pay my bills. The issue is, if you sign up more people, let's say we sign up, 10 more clients. We've got no cash, so we've got to sign up more people. We sign up 10 more clients. That means we need another $40,000 for the slab, times by 10. That's another 400 grand. I need to be able to put the slab down. So you've always got this issue. I need to pay out before I can make money. And so the situation when cash flow becomes really tight, what you need to start doing then is actually taking on more jobs, but you can't take on more jobs because you've got this short cash flow situation. And unfortunately or fortunately, the banks know you more than anybody else knows you. So, everywhere else in the industry, you have to rely on, hearsay and trying to make assumptions about things, whereas your banks will know exactly what's going on. They can look at your bank statements, they can see what your situation is. And so it'll get to a point, if the banks are worried that, you're not going to be able to meet your debts, then they'll stop lending you money. And so you have this situation that you need more money, you need to take on more work to be able to pay back, the debts you've already got. But then eventually the banks just say, hey, we're not going to lend you more money, which means, how are you going to take on more work? Because you can't foot the bill up front before you can get paid for it. So you get in this situation where you're essentially just stuck. So you can't finish off a lot of jobs because you don't have the money to finish it off until you get paid. So it creates this endless cycle. Sometimes builders can get out of this cycle and they can work their way through it. It's a matter of cutting back and trying to keep their costs down as low as possible and trying to work their way through this process. Where this situation can, what I describe as the kiss of death, where it can all go totally wrong, is if it becomes public knowledge that they're struggling with their cash flow, or they're struggling to pay their bills. The reason why that becomes an issue is because, remember, the only way they're going to get out of this problem is to get more work. And so if they can't take on more work, because remember, what's going to happen is, if it gets out of public knowledge, if I'm a person weighing up which builder I'm going to go with, and suddenly it's revealed in the newspaper that this builder is potentially not paying their bills and potentially delaying the build and potentially might go broke, am I likely to go with that builder compared to another builder? No, I'm going to go with the other builder. Even the crazy thing is, even if the other builder is more expensive, then I'll still probably go with the other builder because I want to make sure my house is going to get built. So you can see how this is compounding again, in the sense that you're going to struggle to take on work because people are more likely to go with other builders, even if they are more expensive. So what you end up having to do is trying to convince people to go with you. How are you going to do that if you can't convince people based on reputation? Really, you're going to have to convince people based on price, which creates this final nail in the coffin, I suppose, in the sense that you're going to have to start dropping your price to convince people to build with you. And when you need the money the most, and again, it's nothing to do with the quality of the build or the anything to do with you as a business. It's just purely this cash flow problem means that finally you have to start dropping your price to try and compete with someone. And the thing is, people aren't going to go with you anyway. They're going to go with the other guy, even if he is more expensive. And then you have to drop it more. So you're relying on these people that essentially either don't know about the situation you're in, or secondly know about the situation but they're willing to take a bit of a punt because you're so much cheaper than the other guy. They'll just see what happens and hopefully they can work their way through it. So you can understand why you have to be significantly cheaper than your competitors to try and get more work and trying to work your way through this process. But again, you're cutting when the industry's in a stage where margins are really low anyway. If you start cutting back too far, you're actually making the jobs are going to be unprofitable, and it's not going to solve your problem. And you end up building all these houses for free or negative amounts. So every house you build is you're losing your money, and it's going to create you more and more problems. So you can see how cash flow can be, a really big issue as far as the world of building goes. But you can see how, by this issue becoming public knowledge is basically the kiss of death. It's really hard to work your way back from there. And so, I don't really know how someone's going to get back from there, to be honest. So you really just need to rely on some other source of cash injection to try and get yourself through this problem. So hopefully it's made sense. And if you like what I had to say, then click on the like button. If you're hopefully not building with a builder that's having this problem, because otherwise I'm sure you won't click on the like button. But hopefully, if you've gone through this process, I have helped some clients in the past that have gone through this process where they've got themselves with a builder that's eventually gone bankrupt, and I've had to help them sort through this problem. And unfortunately, the crazy thing is what happened. The insurance company came in to try and help them through the process, and the insurance company actually recommended they build with another builder, and they told them which builder they should go with. I knew that builder was struggling too. I knew they shouldn't go with that builder. Unfortunately for me, fortunately for my clients, I suggested they shouldn't go with the insurance company's recommendations. They end up going with another builder to finish off the house, and obviously they got the house all finished off. But all of the people that did take the advice from the insurance company, they switched to another builder, and that second builder then went bankrupt. And so the other people, not my clients, but the other people had the situation where they had, the two builders went bankrupt on them. So you can imagine, my clients, it ended up taking them, it was probably 2 years of trying to get their house built before the builder actually went bankrupt. And then, I managed to pass them through another builder that did the right thing by them, got them all finished off, and they're, within relatively a few months. But you imagine if these are the other people that I hadn't given advice to, they end up going with a second builder who went broke too and delayed their build again. So it might have been many, many, many years down the track, and they might not have ended up with what they hoped for at the end. So you can see how really important it is to your decision on which builder you're going to go with. It's key essentially. But the unfortunate thing is there's no way for you to tell what the financial situation is for your builder unless you're within the industry and you have a good understanding of what's going on within the industry and which builders are solvent and which builders maybe less so. So if you like what I had to say, then click on the like button. If you if you had an experience with a builder going broke, or if you know someone that's struggling through the process, then click on the share button. I'm sure they appreciate learning a little bit more about this. And put some comments in the comments box. I'd love to hear your story. Or if you've got something you'd like me to talk about in a future episode, then put a comment in there. I'm happy to chat about in the future episode. So thanks guys, and I look forward to talking to you next time. If you're going through this experience where your builder may be going broke, or you're a bit hesitant and you're wondering whether they may be going broke, then send me a message. I'm happy to have a chat to you, and hopefully I can talk you through the process and maybe get you back on track. Thanks guys. Talk soon. Bye.